Billionaires who lost everything. The shocking money mistakes that destroy fortunes. Most people believe that once you become a billionaire, money problems are officially over. But history tells a different story. Today, we're looking at billionaires who had everything: power, influence, private jets, and still managed to lose it all. Not because they were unlucky, but because of poor decisions, unchecked risk, ego, or fraud. This isn't gossip. This is a masterclass in what not to do with money. Whether you're in the USA, the UK, or anywhere else, the lessons here apply to anyone trying to build long-term wealth. Let's begin. Alan Stanford, Billions Built on Lies. Alan Stanford ran what became the second largest Ponzi scheme in history, right behind Bernie Madoff. Stanford promised investors safe certificates of deposit with returns that consistently beat the market, a massive red flag in finance. Behind the scenes, there were no real investments, just investor money paying earlier investors. While Stanford funded yachts, private jets, and political influence across the US and the Caribbean, by the time authorities stepped in, $8 billion was gone. Many victims were elderly retirees who never recovered a penny. Stanford is now serving a 110-year prison sentence. Here's the lesson. If returns look guaranteed, walk away. In both the US and UK, legitimate investments always involve risk. John Asger Johannesson, banking on too much debt. Once Iceland's richest man, John Asger Johannesson built a massive empire during the credit boom. But his wealth relied heavily on borrowed money. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Iceland's banking system collapsed, and so did his fortune. At one point, he was over $750 million in debt, the largest bankruptcy in Ireland's history. Lesson: debt can amplify growth, but it also amplifies destruction. This applies just as much to the UK mortgages and US leverages as it does to billionaires. Patricia Kluge, confusing wealth with cash flow. After divorcing media mogul John Kluge, Patricia Kluge walked away with over $1 billion. But wealth isn't the same as liquidity. She poured millions into turning a Virginia estate into a luxury vineyard, taking on huge loans. The business never actually worked. Eventually, drowning in debt, she sold the property, ironically, to Donald Trump. Here's the lesson. Being rich doesn't protect you from bad business models. Cash flow matters more than headlines. Sean Quinn, one bad bet. Sean Quinn rose from humble beginnings to become Ireland's richest man, worth over $5 billion. But one decision destroyed it all. He placed enormous bets on bank shares using borrowed money. When the banks collapsed, Quinn lost everything. He later served time in prison and never recovered his empire. Here's the lesson. Diversification isn't optional. In the US or UK, betting everything on one idea is gambling, not investing. Alberto Villar, The Fall of a Patron. Alberto Villar was a billionaire investor and a major supporter of the arts in New York and London. But behind the scenes, he was using investor funds illegally. Once exposed, cultural institutions removed his name overnight. He was sentenced to prison for fraud. Lesson: reputation is fragile. Trust is currency, and once lost, it rarely ever returns. Jocelyn Wildenstein, Spending Without Limits. Jocelyn Wildenstein received billions through divorce settlements, but unlimited spending without income eventually catches up. Private jets, luxury homes, cosmetic surgery, no financial discipline. She filed for bankruptcy in 2018. Lesson learned? No amount of money survives unchecked lifestyle inflation. Elizabeth Holmes. Fake it till you make it. Elizabeth Holmes built Theranos into a $9 billion company by claiming revolutionary blood testing technology. The problem? It didn't work. When journalists and regulators exposed the truth, the empire collapsed. She was convicted of fraud and banned from leading public companies. Here's the lesson. In business, especially in regulated markets like the US and UK, truth always catches up. Vijay Mallya. Ego over execution. Vijay Mallya invested a massive business empire in India and expanded aggressively. But one failed airline, Kingfisher Airlines, destroyed it all. Over $1.5 billion in unpaid loans. He now lives in the UK fighting extradition. Lesson. Even powerful brands fail when execution doesn't match ambition. Ike Batista. Boom to bust. Once Brazil's richest man, Ike Batista rode to the commodities boom. But his companies were built on overconfidence and optimistic projections. When reality hit, stock prices collapsed. He now has a negative net worth and multiple convictions. Lesson. Markets are cyclical. Overconfidence is expensive. Bernie Madoff. The face of financial evil. Bernie Madoff ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history, over $64 billion. Thousands lost their retirement savings. He died in prison, serving a 150-year prison sentence. Here's the lesson. Regulation exists for a reason. Always verify, diversify, and question returns. Final takeaways. The real wealth rules. So, here's the truth. None of these people failed because they lacked money. They failed because they lacked risk management, transparency, discipline, and humility. True wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how long you can keep it. That's the philosophy behind the Mindful Millionaire. If this video helped you see money differently, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and remember, wealth is built quietly and lost loudly.